Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Disney Playlist. This is a series in which every episode I sort of either pick a theme or take a theme suggestion from you guys, and I try and create sort of like a mini Disney World itinerary that I think sort of just embodies that theme, and that includes going on rides, that includes places to eat lunch and dinner, that includes a hotel to stay at, all surrounding these specific themes. And today's theme is actually going to be based on a suggestion, and that is the suggestion of music. And I really thought this was an interesting theme because there is so much room for interpretation there. You know, this could be a theme about rides that have a lot of music, or that are about music, or that just have your favorite music. I decided that I was going to focus on rides that I think just embodied music and music creation. And I'm going to kick off this playlist by talking about what hotel I would stay at for this playlist. And I can't really visit an MC Magic because it doesn't exist yet, but it isn't the one that you all probably think it is. The low-hanging fruit, the easy choice would obviously be the All-Star Music Resort, but I'm not going to pick the All-Star Music Resort. In fact, for this playlist, I'm going to be staying at the Port Orleans French Quarter. And the reason why I picked this for a music playlist is because I think, even though it's not a direct relation to music, just that Port Orleans with that, New Orleans style to it, one of the things it reminds me of, besides the city itself, is jazz music, right? New Orleans is just sort of a hub of jazz, and having Port Orleans sort of be inspired by that city, I think it's just sort of a natural connection. And of course, you go to the hotel and it's playing music, like most hotels play music in the lobby and things like that. But this is just one that I think, ties to a type of music that has such a rich history that, for me, one of the first hotels I thought of when I thought of music, surprisingly, wasn't the All-Star Music, it was Port Orleans. So that's where I would stay. And then, we'll leave our hotel and we'll head to the first attraction of the day. And the first attraction of the day is here in Epcot. And it is actually over in Future World. And so the first attraction on our music playlist is one that has a history to it because it was an older attraction that closed and then reopened just, I guess, relatively recently. And that is Captain EO here by the Imagination Pavilion. And of course, I think there's an obvious reason why I picked this for the music playlist, and that's because this is an attraction that stars Michael Jackson, the king of pop. And of course, the attraction itself features music because, again, Michael Jackson is involved. However, I think this is one that is, I think, a no-brainer for this playlist because Michael Jackson, love him or hate him, was a very, very, very major part of the sort of evolution of pop music in the music scene. And so when I think music, I think Michael Jackson. And so when I think Disney and Michael Jackson, of course, I think of Captain EO. And we don't have to go too far to ride our second ride here on the music playlist, and it's over here in Mexico, and it's, well, the only attraction in Mexico, and it is the Grand Fiesta Tour starring the Three Caballeros. And this one, I think, has more of a personal connection for me. Obviously, if you haven't heard of it, the Grand Fiesta Tour was a boat ride in the Mexico Pavilion, and then it was later sort of augmented to add the Three Caballeros, which is Donald Duck and these two other birds, and it was from an animated film back in Walt's day called The Three Caballeros. And this was a movie that had a very famous song that, had the same name as the title of the animation. And while I think you could probably find a lot of attractions in Disney that do something like this, where it's got one iconic song that sort of sums up the attraction, I think this one is just sort of close to my heart because I grew up watching The Three Caballeros. I had it on VHS, watched it all the time, and so that song is one that I really love, and it was just like an attraction that just naturally popped up. I think there are a lot of honorable mentions here. You could think of something like the Carousel of Progress, right, which has its own iconic song, or well, another attraction that I'm not going to mention because it's actually on this list, but for other reasons. But, you get what I'm saying. They're just attractions in the parks that have a song just so closely tied to it. It's a Small World, for instance. And for me, I skipped over those and went right to the Three Caballeros. And before we head on to the next ride, we're going to head on over to lunch, and that is actually also here in Epcot for a nice little musical lunch. And today, on this musical playlist, for a very musical lunch, we are here in Germany in World Showcase. Prost at the beer garden in Germany. And I think anybody who's eaten here should probably know why this would end up on a musical playlist. It is a buffet. It is delicious. There's tons of food. But what's really cool, it's also indoors, but it made to look outdoors, which anybody who knows me knows is like my weakness. But anybody who's eaten here knows that there's like a polka band that actually is on stage while you're eating and performing, and it's awesome. And I guess they're playing, traditional polka music. They invite kids to come up on the stage and play. It's really a lot of fun. It's just like a great musical addition to what's already a fantastic meal. And again, this is sort of similar to the Three Caballeros. I think there are many places you can go where you can find some sort of music, whether it's through speakers or through an actual live performance. But my personal number one love of when it comes to music and food, and two, just what came to mind first, it was the beer garden. I am so excited to go back to Disney World to eat here again because it was such a great place to eat. I think a good honorable mention here on a smaller scale would be Cosmic Ray's Starlight Cafe. That also has a musical performance. Of course, it's more of the animatronic nature, but sure enough, there are other places at Disney where you can go and you can have a little bit of music while you eat. Now, for a change of gears, we head out of Epcot and over to the Magic Kingdom, where we will head on over to the Haunted Mansion. Now, this is the attraction that I was mentioning at the Three Caballeros. It is one that I think is known for an iconic song, which is, of course, Grim Grinning Ghosts, but that's not why it's on my list. I guess it could be on my list for that reason, but the reason why I picked this attraction for the list is because it had more to do, I think, with the music creation in the attraction. And I'm talking about specifically, you've got a ghost playing organs multiple times throughout the attraction. I think you've got one where it's like the shadow playing the piano, and so you see the keys moving, even though you don't see the ghost, but you see the shadow of the ghost. And then, later on during the ballroom scene, you see somebody playing the organ. And so while the iconic Grim Grinning Ghost is obviously one that I think would make a lot of people think of the Haunted Mansion when they think of music in Disney World, I was thinking of it more for those aspects and the idea of actual characters or ghosts in the attraction creating music, which I think is really cool and really fun. And speaking of attractions where the characters in the attraction are making music themselves, I'm adding to my playlist about music the Country Bear Jamboree. I think this is one that probably, I don't think a lot of people would put this on their list, but this one just sort of made sense. It was just a natural addition to this playlist because it is an attraction about a bunch of bears having a jamboree, like a musical jamboree. So, I think it was a no-brainer. I think it's an underrated attraction. It's got one that, I think a lot of people don't realize Walt was involved with that. So it has that sort of deep history in Disney lore. It's an easy ride to get onto. I guess I wouldn't call it a ride. It's an easy attraction to get onto since it is so, unpopular these days. But it sort of has that like rustic and quaint feel to it, and it's just all about fun music. So this and a music playlist, I feel like they go together like, peanut butter and jelly. Now for dinner, we are heading out of the parks, and again, this is a place that doesn't exist in MC Magic yet, so I can't really go over there, but it is over by the Boardwalk Resort, and it is a bar slash, restaurant called Jelly Rolls. And Jelly Rolls is interesting because I believe it's a 21 and over place to eat, and it's a late night place to go and eat. I think they are open from like 7 to 2 in the morning, so it's not the kind of place where you get an early dinner. But what's really cool about Jelly Rolls is that they have dueling pianos. Now, if you don't know what dueling pianos are, think to like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, right? When you had Daffy Duck and Donald Duck sort of dueling on each of their pianos. That's the idea of a dueling piano, and it's supposed to be really fun. I've actually never been there before. I'm hoping to go for the first time when I go down to Disney World this fall, but it is a place that came to mind almost immediately when I thought about music and food because it's so unique, and it's something you can't get anywhere else in Disney World. And I thought it would be a cool change because I think there are probably other places people would jump to first to think about music. But I think this is this is a cool, like, little hidden gem of Disney World. So that's where I would eat dinner, at Jelly Rolls. But that wouldn't be the end of the day, because we would finish it out with one more attraction. So to end off our day, we head on over to Hollywood Studios, 3 parks in a day, a nice filling lunch at the beer garden, and a crazy dinner at Jelly Rolls, and we're going to finish it at the attraction that I think is the biggest no-brainer when it comes to a music playlist, and that is Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith. I mean, look at it. The facade is a giant guitar. This is an attraction that is just like on paper a roller coaster, but this attraction is just 100% about music. It stars Aerosmith, a great band. It's blasting music in your ears while you're riding it. It's just everything about this. You know, the story, the idea that you're going into G-Force Records and you're going to a concert, just everything, all these little bits about it, all of the old, you know, radio equipment that you walk past when you're going through the queue. Everything has to do with music in one form or another. Like, this is just, I think, the closest thing you can get to an attraction that is pure music. So this is where I would end off the day, with a musical playlist. Now, my question for you is, what would you put on your musical playlist? These are just a couple of attractions, a couple of restaurants. There's so many out there. I had to whittle it down. I think everybody could have their own unique Disney playlist based on music. So I want to hear what yours would be. Let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you have an idea for a future playlist. I like this one. I just sort of took it from a suggestion from a subscriber, so your idea might end up being the next Disney playlist. And as I've promised multiple times in the past, I am going to get Christine to do one of these. I actually did have her record one of these a long time ago, and there was a technical issue, and we ended up losing all of it. So we're going to try it again in the near future, and we'll get her on here to do her own playlist based on something. Anyway, if you want to reach out to me, I'm Rob Plays on Twitter. I'm also Rob Plays That Game on Instagram. Have a great week, whatever you're doing, make the most of it because it makes it so much better. And I hope to see you all next time for the next episode of Disney World Playlists. Bye, everybody.